today with a client, friend, mentor, podcaster himself, who we just learned. Is this your first time being on someone else's podcast?
No, not the first time. But,
Okay.
it's always a little nerve-wracking when you're the guest.
Yes.
It's easy when you're the host. You're the one with all the questions.
That's right. Exactly. Okay, so we're going to learn a lot from Frank today on 21 Minutes with Frank Fiume, from private equity to sweat equity, building from the ground up again, because you've done it so many times successfully. I am so excited to hear some of your learnings and nuggets of how to pay it forward, as well as now you have moved from one into the next and the next, and hear about your newest and greatest venture. So kick us off, knowing that you have already interviewed on your own podcast, which you should all go and listen to, Emerging Founder Brands. Franchise Brands. What am I don't even know what I'm doing here. We want to know, you've interviewed over 200 founders. What's the one answer that has stopped you in your tracks and changed how you think about business?
Oh my gosh. I have learned so much from interviewing, 200 plus founders. There's one particular guest that I think kind of set me thinking of franchising in a new way. And it was that to realize that when you're a franchisor, you're really in the adult education business, right? Because your job is to help franchisees become successful. And it's not just training them, but supporting them. And the only way you're going to do that is by, obviously, you're doing that by teaching, training, you're coaching, you're consulting. So to realize that you're actually in the adult education business changed everything for me.
That's such a smart framework, because I think, when folks go into business for themselves, especially as a brand, where they're inviting other people to carry their brand promise through, they still think they're in the nuts and bolts of the business. Right. But I think you nailed, it's the training piece that is so integral to the success, right? Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. That actually that was a
really good way to think about it.
Well, you're really and you're teaching people how to run a business. Or one of the mistakes I made early on, being in the kids sports space, was that when I first decided I was going to be a franchisor and have franchisees and running kids leagues, I thought my primary goal was to teach people how to run sports leagues. Right. So I was focusing on the nuts and bolts of running a sports league. But what I quickly found was that most people who become a franchise owner have never even owned a business. Mm-hmm. So you have to teach people how to run the business of sports leagues, which is totally different than how to run a sports league.
Yeah, it's like you're starting what you think you're starting at 201 classes. Yes. You really need 101 before you even get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And wondering if they have that entrepreneurial instinct as well I feel like franchises. Like, you're teaching them how to run a business. You're teaching them that instinct. For some of them, it's the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. True.
So for folks who don't know, you've had a couple different lives in your business brand career. Just tell us a little bit about what you originally started, because I want to talk to you and ask you some questions about selling I-9, re-entering the market now with emerging franchise brands, and what that looks like. So tell us a little bit about I-9 and what made you start it, and how you got to emerging franchise brands. We have 21 minutes, actually 19, so.
And we're off.
The Twitter version.
I will give you the quick version. So, believe it or not, I was born and raised in New York, and I was running, I was in medical sales, was my full-time career, but I was playing a lot of softball with my college buddies on the side on the weekends, and I quickly found that was a business. And I thought, well, heck, I can try to run a softball league, because the leagues that were out there were horrible.
Yeah.
So I started running an adult men's softball league in Long Island, and quickly found that there was a great business opportunity. When my wife and I moved here in 1996, we learned that the NFL was going to start offering flag football as a way of promoting the game. So I started running flag football leagues. Mm-hmm. And so one thing led to another, and I thought, okay, well, I've got adult sports in New York, I've got kids sports in Florida. How do I grow this thing? And so I decided the best way to do it was to franchise. And so I came up with the name I-9 Sports. as a way that was symbolic of the 9 eyes. Don't quiz me on all 9 eyes on the spot here.
Wow, okay, we didn't know this. This is awesome.
But yeah, so we launched I9 Sports as a way of offering adult and kid sports initially. I quickly found that was a huge mistake, and so we condensed it down to just kid sports, and the game changed, no pun intended, but we exploded out of the gate.
As we think and talk about niching down to what works and finding the sweet spots and pivoting like towards that direction, right? Then you went on, how many years did you run I9?
For about 20 years.
Yep.
Yeah, just short.
Yeah. So just barely entering the market, 20 years, you've got some stories. You went on to exit from that business and that brand and start something else, right? So I'm curious, and not to air too much of your business, but he did it rather successfully with a private equity 9-figure deal. Then you started over again with emerging franchise brands. I think some people would be on an island right now on a boat, Frank. What made you want to start something again? What itch were you trying to scratch?
Well, first off, I didn't start I9 Sports for the money. It was a love of mine. It was an absolute passion play. It was something that I felt like was purpose. I felt like I was really called to do this.
Yep.
And so I loved it. But I did realize, though, when I got to about 2015, 2016, that I had to be smart about the business and maybe take some chips off the table. Because quite honestly, all of our net worth was kind of tied up in the business.
Right.
And I thought it was maybe a wise thing to do, as, we were getting, we were in our 40s, and I thought, okay, might be a smart play here long term. When I sold the company, though, I didn't sell it because I wanted to retire.
Right.
I sold it because I felt like it was the right time for me. I took the business for as long as for as far as I should take it. And I also realized that I probably worked about 30 years, squished into 20 years. So I needed a little bit of time to kind of rewire, so to speak.
Yeah.
Recoup.
Yeah.
I, having sat in a couple of your sessions that you executed earlier this year, I have a little piece of information that is not in the questions, but I want to circle back. So
She's going rogue.
I'm going rogue. When I heard you talk about your exit and you knew when there was a completion coming, you had someone recommend writing a love letter to your business, and something came out of that. Can you just delicately tell the story of how that came and then reading the letter back and what the realization was?
I had a huge surprise, as you know. So I had a life coach who suggested that I write a love letter to my business as a way of trying to figure out what I should do. Because quite honestly, I was torn. I didn't want to sell my company. I loved I9 Sports with all my heart. I loved my employees, and it had given me so much purpose. But at the same time, another part of me was feeling pulled away, like I don't belong here anymore. And I couldn't figure out why. Nobody ever talks about leaving your company and exiting. They always talk about how hard it is to start a business and grow it. And so my life coach said, why don't you write a love letter to your business? I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. And as I started writing it, and I know you know this, Brittany, it ended up starting out with professing my love for the company and turned into a breakup letter.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
And I was not expecting it.
I love this story so much.
I said to my business, I love you so much, but I think you deserve more than what I can give you. And I think it's time that we move on.
Yeah.
And I was shocked when I wrote it. I did not see it coming, but I just was writing. And I knew at that point it was the right decision, that it was time for me to move on.
Absolutely. I love this suggestion of the practice. I love how you, through writing this, came to the realization of what the right next step was. I think for anybody who has been in a relationship or has a business can relate, It's like really getting this out on paper made you realize the importance of what you had accomplished and what the next step was.
We were growing apart. We really were. What the company needed and where I wanted to go, we're going in different directions.
Yeah.
But when you love your business, you give it what it needs, even if that means it's not you.
You set it free. Yes.
Yeah, set it free.
Wow, it's so poetic.
Right? So now that you have transitioned into running kind of ground up once again, right, emerging franchise brands, I'm sure you already know some pitfalls of running a startup, getting things going. What I really want to know is what part makes you want to scream into your pillow? I mean, we're back kind of ground up here, so
Yeah.
what's the most frustrating part of doing it all over again?
He's like, all of it.
First of all, I believe starting a business is a young man or young woman's game. First of all, that's for
Spirit.
starters.
Definitely spirit.
Young in spirit.
Yeah.
I love it. No, I do love it. I think before anything else, I think my secret to my success is having passion and love for what I do.
Yep.
I'm not one of those people who could just do something for the money and be successful at it. That's just not me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people say, oh, it's a cliche, find your passion and
Right.
the money will find you. It worked for me, and it worked for me several times. In this case, with emerging franchise brands, I feel like I have such a great admiration for the startup and that early stage, because that's when I was frustrated. And so that's the part that I like to focus on, is helping founders that are new to franchising, because
Mm-hmm.
it's a very difficult business, but in any business, there's going to be challenges along the way. And so you just have to be able to take it head on.
I think that learning and just like growing on the shoulders of your past success while still leaning into why you started it. I feel like, the days that you're frustrated as a business owner myself, you really have to go back to the why. And I think some people just get lost along the way. So I applaud you for one, restarting, and two, doing it in a way, once again, right? It's like, if you're not chasing the money, the passion and the energy behind it comes so much easier.
I think so. Again, I wasn't looking to retire when I sold I9. I was really rewiring, so to speak, and I knew I needed some time away and a little bit of a break.
It's a building block.
But it was time to move on to a new chapter, and what better than helping people with their business?
Love that. Speaking of, knowing you have now interviewed bunches of other new founders, and you have your own personal experience to draw from. Question is, what's one red flag founders ignore, either because they're too in love with their own concept, or maybe they're chasing the money? What's a red flag that you think immediately you see and you're like, I don't know.
Well, first of all, doing the podcast, I didn't know what to expect because I didn't have any experience in podcasting. But interviewing 200 people, I've started to get really good at pattern recognition.
Sure.
And I kind of figure out who's going to make it and who's not. One big red flag is to not see from the customer's perspective. And I do see founders from time to time that are so in love with their brand that they think it's about them.
Yep.
And it's not about you. It was never about you. It's who you're serving and how you can serve them. So the founders that can make it, number one, are the people who can see when the baby is ugly and say it, and I need to fix it. Number one. Two, if they're doing too much and not willing to make that higher, is a huge problem. And the ones that make it are the ones that say, I need to hire for my weakness. I need people, and I can't do it all. And the founders that don't make it are the people that think they can multitask so much and they can kind of dabble. You just don't get anywhere.
Man, two great nuggets. I feel like as a marketer, when we encounter people who have a singular focus around their brand and they're at the center of it, also huge red flag, right? Because you can't see outside of yourself and how to attract, in this case, other entrepreneurs who want to enter the fold of your business and your brand and carry that all the way through. So I think that's a huge one. I also think, given the red flag of getting distracted so easily and thinking you can do it all, that's the entire reason you franchise. Right? It's like, hey, we need more people to carry out this dream or this brand or this business. So yeah, that's a difficult one of when to pull the trigger and bring more people into the fold and hire for your brand, especially. Do you have any recommendations when you see people doing that? What is the right time to walk someone in?
To hiring?
Yes.
Well, number one is to find out where their frustrations are. And their frustrations are always the parts of the business that they're not in flow, the parts that their weaknesses. For me, it was, yes, I did the systems and processes. I did the technical work, but it wasn't my strength. My strength was more the vision, setting the vision, and also developing the technology and that side of the business.
Yep.
But to do the actual nuts and bolts of the systems and processes for supporting the franchisees, I grinded. Like I did it, but that was the one where I was struggling with, and I knew I needed people that were really good at that. And so once I was able to hire people that fit the bill for that, that's when the business really took off.
Yeah.
Have you seen that for like every startup that you've podcasted with and interviewed? Have you seen that that's their problem too? They have the vision, but being able to go through with it and kind of have the grit to go through with it?
More times than not, Shea. One of the things I learned a lot from Tony Robbins over the years, but one of the things I learned at Business Mastery was that people really fall into one of three buckets as a business owner. You're either the artist, which most people that start a business are the artist. It's all about my art and the beauty of my company and what I'm developing and strategy. Then there's the manager leader. The manager leader is somebody who is really, focused on the technical aspect of the work. And then you have somebody else who's really in the operations side of it. And, it's really hard sometimes to find that operations, person.
It reminds me a lot of the E-Myth. Somebody recommended the visionary, the entrepreneur, right? Like the myth of owning your own thing, the manager, the technician, which is like, the specialist, and very similar outcome to try and figure out how to scale your business. And I think a lot of people just reinvent their own job, right? And then expect to walk in successfully, and that's tough to do.
Yeah, it is.
So looking back in these experiences now, and restarting, exiting, bringing people in, hiring, coaching, recognizing patterns, which I want to circle back on that. That's super intriguing. What's one thing that you would tell yourself from your experience today back when you started I-9?
Back when I started I-9, okay, number one, it's going to be a lot harder than you think. Okay, first of all, I think that is just being naive starting out. There's a beauty in that.
100%.
If we really knew the pain that we were going to endure in business, nobody would ever start a business.
They wouldn't do it. Yeah.
No, we wouldn't do it. So it's almost like if I had to tell my 2003 version of myself, I would tell them, just make sure that you're making the right decision. Don't do what's popular. Do what you know is right.
Yep.
And I probably wouldn't tell my 2003 self too much.
Right.
I would
let them figure it out.
There's that curiosity that is so pure and allows that founder to try things out and to go for it, as opposed to telling people all the pitfalls ahead of time. It's almost, they become afraid to, skin their knee.
Daunting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't make it so scary.
Yeah.
Even if it is scary.
It is. And sometimes it is.
I feel like that's where it comes needing like a mentor. Like that's what you've done for these early founders, being a mentor for them in a way that like you wouldn't want to tell yourself what you would endure, but you're able to be a mentor and teach them through whatever you already went through.
Shea, that's a great point. One of the things I focus on with the founders that I mentor is I tell them I can see around the corners. I know exactly, based on the decisions they're making today, what's going to happen.
Right.
It's not because I'm so brilliant. It's because I've seen it so many times. It's just, it's a pattern recognition of seeing it again and again. Seeing around the corners, seeing their blind spot. It's rather easy for me because not only did I do it, but I've seen other people do it. And that to me that's the reason why you have a mentor. It's to see, because like they say in golf, you need a coach because you can't see yourself swing.
Ooh, good one. I'm going to use that. I think that, listening to kind of the story of how you're mentoring, how you've been able to recognize these patterns, you must have some tips for folks who are now building and have built and have an eye on exiting or selling. Any tips that you would give to somebody looking to follow that path?
I hope that everybody that starts a business does think about their exit strategy, number one. To think that we're going to do this forever is, it's obviously, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
The one, I don't want to call it a warning, but the one thing I would highly recommend to people to be prepared for it is that there's going to be a grieving process.
Ooh, okay.
When you leave something that you created,
Yeah.
there's a mourning.
Right.
And I went through
Back to the love letter.
I
Full
didn't,
circle.
as much as I knew it was the right decision, I still wasn't prepared for what was going to happen after the check cleared. Everybody thinks that hasn't sold their business, that when they sell their company, oh my gosh, you get this big check and you ride off into the sunset. It doesn't happen. I've talked to founder after founder that's been through it. And what happens is you're happy for maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you say, now what? What's next? What's next is the number one thing that people say to themselves. Yeah. And maybe there is no what's next. Maybe it's like, what's now? And what's now is you're going to go through grieving, just like the loss of a person. And you have to go through it. It's a natural part of the process.
Right.
But once you get through the grieving, you come out on the other side, you have a new appreciation for your business of the past, and you think, how can I, impact others moving forward?
That's how you know you care. I mean, when it's never enough time. It's never enough time. Listening to your journey and understanding how passionate you are, about building the business has to be such a gift to every person who sits across from you as you've interviewed over 200 founders now, because they get to see the real deal, and some people are chasing things that may or may not matter. So I love that piece of advice. I think it's super important. Closing us out, what's next for a podcast? What's an unexpected next step that you didn't see after filming with 200 people?
What's next in terms of what kind of podcast you mean?
So we just started our podcast, and the evolution now is coming full circle. So what have you learned since starting this podcast, and what's kind of the evolution of that for you next?
What I learned is that as the host, you're going to be evolving and growing, and you're going to start asking maybe different questions based on, not only who your guest is, but where you want to take this particular podcast, because it'll probably turn into some theme that you didn't see coming.
Right.
And so that's what's happened for me was I just thought I was interviewing founders. And then what I started to see was we were actually helping not just spotlight their brand, but we were kind of helping them help people see where their brand was going from where they started and telling their story.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, because there's not enough of that for, especially these 4,000 franchise brands that are out there. So that the emerging brands, they get lost.
Yep. So because watching the evolution now and seeing how you're mentoring people and how much you care, I think for us has been such a cool thing to witness. So congratulations on your newest, latest, and greatest endeavor. And thanks for coming on our podcast today. What a treat.
Thanks, ladies. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, see you next time.